Flyover family, buckle up, because this is the Flyover Conservatives show.
I don't know if I would eat anything from Bill Gates, let alone chicken he made in a lab.
Lab meat? Giant win for free speech, and we have the guy that helped bring it to you.
The same geniuses that brought you face masks, double face masks, and the lockdowns now want to block out the sun?
What? All of this and more on the Flyover Conservatives show! Welcome to Flyover Conservative Podcast with David and Stacy Whited, where we break down current events and examine culture through the lens of conservative Christian values.
You know, people use the term like, oh, I'm busy, I got a lot to do. But there's really not a lot of things that you have to do. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't live very long if you don't sleep.
True.
I think it's not very long at all. You got to drink water.
Yeah.
And you've got to eat.
Yeah.
Everything else is kind of like is sort of extras. We say it's like, what's the top of your to-do list? If those things stop, you stop. We kind of take for granted that it's going to be easy to do that those things are always around, but they are not. So if you're getting advice on what do I do if I don't have access to food, water, good ideas, what do I do? Well, our role in this world is to connect you with the smartest people on the planet on their given area of expertise. And so today we have from Heaven's Harvest, Mr. Clayton Llewellyn.
Yay!
What is up?
How you guys been?
Great, good to see you, man.
We're doing good. We're cranking into summer. People are planting gardens and harvesting things. We had a family reunion on Stacy's side of the family this last weekend, and they all garden. They have, cans, jars, stuff like this. Her grandma turns 101 this month in July, and she still has a huge garden, lives on her own, drives herself.
Sassy.
Ornery. Honestly, she gets annoying. And just going after it. But big gardens, growing stuff and doing things. And, when you're around that culture and stuff, you're like, oh, this used to be the normal.
Yep.
But now, like those guys, I think they could make it probably about 10 years without leaving their, just stuff they got canned and jarred. But
True.
Most people, boy, it's 2-3 days is about what they have. And I'm not sure they would know what to do after that.
Nope. Hey, you know what's funny? You're talking about this. I was watching a good program on TV last night called The Food That Built America. I don't know if you guys have seen that or not.
No.
It's a great show. And I'd never really thought about this or, put it into perspective. Like, we were all reliant on ourselves. We were dependent on ourselves, and we all lived on farms. Well, in the early 1900s, when we all started moving to the cities, nobody could feed themselves anymore. And that's kind of where it started, and the whole Food That Built America kind of gets into that. So,
that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Two things. It's got it right there on the screen, The Food That Built America. And you're shocked with always two things. One, when even just something like tomato sauce added to, her mom just threw together this like goulash. I don't know if you have goulash in your family or not, but it's kind of like just kind of some noodles and stuff that's left around, and she makes it. It's amazing. It's a little different every time.
Yep.
But it was the tomato sauce that came from their garden, and it was like, it's just so much better. And then when we had food, the big tomatoes, cut on these hamburgers, and they're just unbelievable. Everything is so much better.
Oh, no, absolutely. Look, that's what kind of got us started in this whole thing. We were working for the farmers in Florida, and I think if people knew where their tomatoes come from, nobody'd ever buy another tomato from the grocery store. I mean, these things they're picked green off the vine. They're sprayed with tons and tons of chemicals. Then they're putting it into gas chambers to keep them from turning red. I mean, literally, we soak them in gas chambers to keep them from turning red till we get them to the market. And then
that's terrible.
Oh, it's crazy what we.
There's a big difference in the taste too. So let's just set the chemicals to the side. Just even the taste itself. There's a huge difference between the one that comes out of your garden. And that's something cool that you guys do there with your seeds. Explain to the Flyover family, and maybe even to us, because I'm still trying to understand it, the seeds that you all offer and why they're different.
Well, and I didn't know they were different until we got into this. But a lot of the seeds that the big farmers are using now are genetically modified, or they're hybrids. They figured out how to take a small red tomato and a great big green tomato, mix the genes on it, so that when it grows now, you get a great big red tomato. That being said, it's lost a lot of its nutritional value. Yeah. It doesn't taste like anything. The heirloom seeds, they're probably the seeds your grandmother's using, are like original seeds. They're seeds by God's design.
Right.
This is what tomatoes were supposed to look like, supposed to taste like. And I can remember them tasting like that 20 years ago. So I mean, this is a new thing that we've gotten into with these hybrids and these GMOs.
It's not good. And so you kind of went down this path and got so into it that you decided, well, let's just make a business out of this. And just, you guys are crushing it. Heavensharvest.com. You give a discount to everybody that's part of Flyover family if they put in promo code Flyover, discounts and everything in your store. President Trump said something about, I forget, was it country said, he said basically everything the left touches, it turns to a poop emoji. And it is, I think you put Bill Gates behind that because his vested interest in Monsanto affecting those seeds.
Yep.
There's countries for years he wasn't even allowed to enter. I think India, they just let him back in. But for years he wasn't even allowed to go to India because of harm he had brought. Many African countries he's not allowed to visit. I would say everything Bill Gates touches, he turns it to a poop emoji. This is a family-friendly show. But now he's actually making meat. I guess you look back and say, God, you did your best. Let me show you how it's done. I'm Bill Gates. I made really crappy computer software. And so let me give a try of meat. And so they've actually approved it. I think you said about a month ago, maybe we were talking with producer Colton here. The chicken was already out, and now steak has been approved by the USDA. They say, yes, this is just as good as what God made. Bam, laboratory made steak.
Yep. Now, look, here, the problem with this, and to go back to the seeds real quick, is they're doing this with vegetable seeds. And a lot of the reason these countries will not allow him in there is if we plant the whole planet in one kind of seed, and for some reason it catches a disease or a virus, the whole planet will get wiped out of that food source. I mean, it's an awful, awful idea. The same thing with this lab-grown meat. Like, one thing goes wrong or, there's one accident, now you've got 100 million people that rely on this factory for its food that's just completely wiped off the face of the earth. So it's an awful idea. And quite honestly, this right here gives them the ability to put vaccines in it.
Oh, yeah.
Gives them the ability to control how much you're allowed to eat, when you can eat. You've bought enough chicken this week, you can't buy any more. We don't think you deserve a steak this week. Like, it's an awful, awful idea. But this is the road they're headed down. You know what I mean? These companies, him in particular. I mean, what's he, like the largest landowner now in the country?
Yeah. He's America's biggest farmer.
But why would anybody want lab meat? I don't understand. Why would anybody want
Why would anybody want to look like Bill Gates?
True.
Well, you know what? You've got half the country that'll eat this stuff willingly. I mean, the same people that took the vaccine are going to be the ones jumping all over this.
Lined up, wearing a mask.
Crazy.
Please, could I have some Bill Gates meat? What's in it? Can you put some more goop in it? Please, thank you.
Yep. Look, I mean, it's crazy, but I mean, here he is. He's buying up, all the farmland, not to farm it, but to make sure you don't farm it.
Yeah.
And now you have to buy his lab-grown meat. So it's a scary road we're headed down. I mean, and we're headed that way. It's going to happen.
This isn't a like 20 years from now kind of a thing. We're there, and to not be making decisions to prepare for a world where you won't have access to some of these resources isn't speculation. That's what they're. Now I don't need to be in fear, but also, I'm not going to go out hunting in the middle of deer season wearing my swim trunks and a t-shirt either, because it's usually about 7 below. So I can face a tough reality and make a better choice, and that's really what you guys are about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, we started this thing when we were down in Florida, watching them spray chemicals all over the food that I was giving my daughter. And you talk about your grandma being 101 and growing her own garden. She's been eating her own food for 101 years. We're living off the garbage that the system gives us now. We see all the cancers and everything else coming. Like, it's just, the food they give us is awful, absolutely awful. Just garbage, processed junk. So being able to take care of yourself like that is huge. But if there's more to it than that too, you see what's going on in the world right now. I mean, you look at the riots in France. Like, can you imagine being in France right now and being, 60, 70, 80 years old, needing to go to the grocery store?
Nope.
Like, do you think those people care about your safety at this point? Like, and it's only a matter of time before that's here. I mean, we had it with the BLM riots, and it's only a matter of time before it'll happen again. You got Russia and China. We're fighting them. The dollar's collapsing as we speak. Like, everybody talks about inflation. Like, I always like to look at the other side of it. Like, it is inflation, but look how much value your dollar's lost. Look at the savings you've lost. I mean, it's incredible how fast we're headed downhill. And guys, I'll be honest with you, the amount of people that have woken up in the last month or two over this we're just absolutely insane right now, trying to get orders out, trying to find ingredients for our food, trying to find seeds. Like, a lot of people are waking up to this.
So talk about the kits you have available, and you kind of take some of the thinking out of this, where people don't have to get there and calculate a whole lot of stuff. It's kind of put together in little kits and programs where hey, you can, it's kind of like building Legos. You know what to do.
So you have seeds, but you also offer food as well. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it's the survival, the food kits there. Like, we've got 6 different buckets. I would say that 1 week kit you're looking at right now we've only had that for probably 6 months, and it's been very, very popular. It's for $109. It's a week's worth of food. It's got a mix of food in there, from breakfast to entrees to a drink in there for you, and that gives you enough calories for one adult for 1 week.
Okay.
And again, some people, oh my gosh, $109 for a week's worth of food. Like, really sit down and think what you spend right now on a week's worth of food.
You couldn't go to McDonald's every day for lunch for $109.
No. And this stuff's got a 25-year shelf life on it. It's one of those things, I hope you never need to use it, but if you do, it's there for you.
That is so good.
And it's real food too. Yep. Talk about some of the nutritional content and some things in here where it's not you're just calories and you're eating cardboard to survive. No. But it's real food.
No. It's real food. This is real food. It's pastas, it's meats, it's stuff like that, and it's all been freeze dried. There's a lot of places out there that'll dehydrate food. And you don't want to dehydrate food because it loses a lot of its nutritional value when you do that. The freeze drying process saves all that nutritional value. So it's much healthier food. Mm-hmm. You get much more out of it. It's as opposed to eating cardboard. There's actually real calories and real carbs in there to get you through a tough situation.
Beef, chicken, and eggs.
So let's say that somebody is new to this. They have not had an opportunity to prep before. Where's a good place for people to start? Obviously, it depends on budget, but what's probably your biggest sellers, and what's kind of the best place for people to start?
That 1 week kit is an excellent place to start. I mean, an absolutely excellent place to start. The value of it's terrific. We've also got like the 72 serving entree bucket, which is a month's worth of entrees for somebody. Again, you need to add to that. You know what I mean? Like, our big thing, I purchased this stuff years ago from another company, and I was really disappointed at what I got. They were saying that pretty much a serving size was a meal. You know what I mean? So they took 365 days times 3 servings a day, and here's your food. And when I really sat down and started adding up the calories and all that, there was barely enough in there to get me through 3 months. So
wow.
That's part of the reason we started this company is, there's going to be a lot of people that if they ever decide to use that food or need to use that food, it's going to be, they don't have what they think they have. But the entree bucket there is a great bucket. It's all entrees. We didn't put any garbage or fillers in there. There's no rice. There's no beans. There's no drink mixes in it. That's just 12 entrees. There's 12 different ones. They come in a 6-serving bag. And again, like, our servings are enough for an adult. If there's 4 of us in our family, and if we cook a bag of the stroganoff, that's 2 meals for all 4 of us.
Okay.
They're really filling meals.
I love it. Heavenharvest.com, and then use promo code Flyover for anything in the store. Get massive discounts. I think this is especially beneficial for people in cities, because it's like all of a sudden you're trapped. It might be hard to get out of a city if there's some kind of catastrophe, and it could be any number of things. It might just be an ice storm, or it could be something weather related, or it could be something banking related, or from a million different directions. That seems to be what's happening. But if you're in a city, you can put these in a closet, be an apartment. You don't need a lot of storage. You can just kind of feel like a responsible grown adult, kind of got your crew taken care of, or you can even do it month by month. But put some stuff in a closet, and hey, we're good if something happens.
And Dave, that's a great point you just brought up. And a lot of people, like, they're not reporting this stuff in the news. You don't want to report this in the news. You'd have a bank run right now. But I mean, the fund they set up for these banks that are failing, I mean, they've pulled billions and billions of dollars out of there to prop these banks up. Like, can you imagine waking up tomorrow morning and you no longer have a bank?
No.
You no longer have a way to get your food. People don't keep cash anymore. Everything's on a debit card or a credit card.
Yep.
Like,
so true.
I mean, it's so fast this could happen. And I mean, we're on the precipice of, like, something bad going on. You know what I mean? Like, it's just there's too much right now not to be ready for it.
So true. This is an important time to prepare. You never know what's going to happen, but man, it's great to be prepared. Clayton, thank you so much for joining us today. Again, you can go to heavensharvest.com. That's with an S, heavensharvest.com. Use promo code Flyover for your discount. Clayton, thanks again. Hey, Flyover family, we have a brand new sponsor for the Flyover Conservative show, Heaven's Harvest. So exciting.
We've been really excited about this partnership because for about 2 years now, our level of awareness has increased on things that can go wrong in the world. Not just the big major stuff, but ice storms in Texas and things that, you don't plan on. And I guess a level of personal responsibility of like, hey, we have people that we care for that depend on us. And so we've been tiptoeing into it, but it's overwhelming. It's like, what do I do next? And so we've made little steps in that process, but we've been asking everyone we know, everyone we respect in this space, hey, who's a good supplier of things? Who has food that you would actually eat if you had to, that without eating styrofoam that you'd be gagging down if you lost a bet? Like real actual food that if you put it away for storage, that when it came time to do it would be palatable, as well as heirloom seeds. A lot of the seeds nowadays, you plant them, they're not, you can't reproduce with them. They've been genetically modified and really messed up. So we've been asking people we really respect. Somebody we get a lot of advice from personally, we've made a lot of small moves in our life from, is Seth Holhouse with Man in America. And we kind of went off of his lead as well as some others. And so we are super excited about this partnership because they're willing to give a massive discount to the Flyover family.
That's exactly right. When you go to heavensharvest.com and you use promo code FLYOVER, you get 10% off. What a great deal. We are so thankful and excited about this partnership.
Oh man, get ready to learn. Get a pencil, get a piece of paper, get ready to go because you're about to learn something, whether you want to or not. Today's guest, original editor of the Gateway Pundit, an incredible author, got a #1 book in the country in almost half a dozen different categories. Just get ready to get a little bit smarter. We're going to talk to the one, the only Joe Hoft.
Yay!
Thank you very much.
Welcome. We've been looking forward to this.
Well, and it's been hard for me to even walk through a door because my head's getting so big. Stacy's on the board for Pastors for Trump. She's not a pastor, but I think just qualifications.
I guess so. Love the prophetic, love Jesus.
She prays good, and that's what our country needs a lot. And they're like, hey, we need more of that. So we got to attend an event. They put us on a platform to speak at this event, and I look there, and it's Stacy and I look, and we're sitting next to Joe Hoft.
My gosh.
I'm like, how did this happen?
It was like fishing ourselves. Are you kidding me?
What an honor. I was down in Miami at the Doral event at the Trump property. What an incredible night.
Thank you so much. It was an honor for me too, and I'll tell you what, I'll never forget. You guys gave an incredible story. By the way, some of your prophecies that you mentioned, Stacy, I think there's something else, and there may be something to that. I'll have to share that with you sometime. There we are.
That's exciting.
General Flynn, speak out a flag. You're next to us. It's like I fell through a wormhole and slipped into an alternative universe where I'm somebody special.
How about it? And then at the end, when Roger Stone got up there, we're just feet away from him, and he does his famous peace sign,
yes,
victory or whatever it is. It's a Nixon move that he's been doing for years. To see that so up close was just fantastic. His story was brilliant as well as General Flynn's. What a great night that was. It's really was such an honor to be there with you guys, and it was a great event. The room was packed. It
was hundreds of people, and it was barely announced a few hours before, and people to show up. People are hungry. When you get malnourished, it's like horses. I grew up on a farm. A horse doesn't have salt and stuff. It'll crave. It'll start chewing its the wooden panels in a corral. Like when people are malnourished of something, they crave it and they begin seeking it out, and that's kind of like with the truth. And the reason the truth has been so hard to find, it's been intentionally suppressed. We don't have the both sides of I want to put a tweet up here from Clay Travis, and let's get your comment on this today. Clay Travis, kind of grew up in the sports world there, commenting on that, and then I think he's a Vanderbilt graduate out of Nashville, and then now he kind of took over that slot, him with another fella for where Rush Limbaugh was. But read this tweet. It says Joe Biden's federal government's engagement in the most direct attack on the First Amendment in U.S. history through social media censorship. This is one of the most important district court opinions ever written. Holy hell. What a takedown and defense of free speech. And he puts a link to the actual court case in there. And then, he followed up right underneath that tweet. He said, I'm not kidding. Everyone should read this opinion. It's perfect. The most significant First Amendment opinion in the COVID era so far. Bravo, Judge Dowdy, LSU grad. By the way, he did every Bayou Bingle proud with this one, and then we got a copy of this. We'll put this ruling in the notes below so people can read it for themselves. It's over 150 pages long, but if you want to at least look at the openings of it, you can get a feel for what it's about. Talk about the importance of this case. Missouri, Louisiana, a lot of states kind of involved in this. But there was a censorship taking place that people weren't aware. If I came and put duct tape over your mouth, you would feel the censorship.
Sure.
This kind of happened in the background, and people, it took a while to even catch on the fact that they've been censored.
Yeah. So I'll just cock the shotgun here and just start throwing it out.
Yeah.
I started working with Jim at the Gateway Pundit for back in 2016. We both fell in love with Trump, and we started writing that. My first article on Trump made it to the top of Drudge Report. Back then, Drudge was the king. If you got on Drudge, a link to Drudge, you were king of the world, and as far as information goes. And then I predicted that Trump would win and that Cruz would be eliminated within a month, and my prediction proved absolutely accurate. Just looking at the numbers, I could see, no, Cruz is going to be done. There won't be enough delegates left for him. And sure enough, 2 days in a row, then I had 2 different articles that Drudge Report put up, the top stories at Drudge. So I was thrilled. And I was at the time, I was a corporate executive in Hong Kong. So this was just kind of something I'm doing on the side. And I got the 2 biggest stories in the U.S., maybe the world. And so that was really exciting. That got me excited and started writing for Jim at that time. And so we were crushing it. 2016, at the end of the year, there was a study done after Trump won, and it was done by a couple entities. I believe Soros was probably behind the study. What they're trying to say is that there's all this fake news. They use the term first, fake news, and they're calling us at the Gateway Pundit fake news. And that's why Hillary lost. And they showed these charts, and you could see that there's the old legacy media, which they put in blue, and they were all, they owned it. They owned it, as we all know. And yet what they weren't counting on was this new media that popped up on the side, which was about the same size. And one of the top biggest circles there was Gateway Pundit. It was one of the top 4, at least, conservative sites as far as Twitter shares and Facebook shares.
Huge. You see it everywhere.
And we were crushing it. I think that one guy told us once that he believes that Gateway Pundit had twice as many Facebook shares as CNN. So, and that was basically with my help and a couple others. I was doing 1 article a day. I had a full-time position in Asia. I'm flying all over there. But that was with basically Jim sitting in his office doing that day after day. And a lot of our stuff, we'd take CNN stuff and just share that, just point out, we'd laugh at it, how ridiculous it was, and the pro-Hillary stuff. So that was kind of the beginning of really utilizing social media to express a message on the conservative side. We were killing it. So this report then said, we've got to stop this. But Trump immediately took the term fake news and pinned it onto them, and it stuck. And now we still believe that big media and big tech and now actually I'd say cable media is all fake news. And so, or a huge percent. And that's why people don't go there anymore. So, but what happened was something really sinister after that. In 2017, the top 10 sites that was in this study on the conservative side, they had lost, and I did a study for Jim. He said, I got the data. I did a study from overseas, and it was 95% of their volume from 2016 was reduced. So these conservative websites on Facebook, for example, were down to 5% Facebook shares from what they had the year before. And it was definitely making an impact. Some of these sites, their whole business model was on Facebook. They're making a tremendous amount of money through advertising on Facebook, and they just basically got shut down, and they are gone. Wow. And then Zuckerberg would get in front of Congress and Dorsey from Twitter, and they'd say, no, we don't censor. We don't censor. But we could see it. One of the measurements we had was we could see how many shares a post was getting. And we knew big stories. And we could see before the election, we're getting, 30,000 shares or whatever on Twitter, or whatever it might have been. And then after the election, it's not getting hardly any traffic. And then Drudge changed as well, which was really unfortunate. But we just kept fighting on, and Gateway Pundit continued to grow every year despite this attack from the left. But there was this effort then. They started these fact checkers like NewsGuard and PolitiFact that would attack us and say our stories were bogus. And especially, I was out there, we were just hammering the Mueller exam. It was total garbage, and we were pointing out day after day what garbage it was. And so sick with some of these players. Now, I was an accountant at the time, a CPA overseas, and I'm like, we've got it's not necessarily regulations, but we've got a duty to recuse ourselves if we've got any type of connection to an audit that we might be performing. And yet all these guys that were in the Mueller exam were filthy, dirty, dark liberals. And guys like Weissman, that was even at Hillary's inauguration party. It's just, and that
crying.
was the first time.
He was crying.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. So they never should have been on it, and we wouldn't do that in the corporate world. So anyways, days go by, and even one of these fact checkers, it was NewsGuard, would say, well, we'll stop dinging you, but they were really important because Facebook used them as the purveyor of truth and said, well, whatever NewsGuard rates you, that's what we'll use for Facebook to basically censor you. And they gave Gateway Pundit just a horrible rating, as expected. And so we would try, Jim, I remember, tried to barter with them. What can we do? They finally said, well, if you put on the top of every post that basically this is garbage and you need to come to NewsGuard for the truth, we might consider, giving you a little higher rating.
What?
So that's the kind of stuff.
It's laughable. It is laughable.
But so then what happens? Let's fast forward to the last really 6 months. Well, maybe I should. We're trying to figure out why can they do this, and we find out about this section. I think it's 230 in the big tech law that says, hey, they can do whatever they want, basically. And there was reasons for that being in place, but these guys were on a free for all. They were taking down conservative information that was true, claiming it was fake news or whatever on their point. Now they're using the term it's hate speech, which is even worse. And then that's how they would justify it, and they'd get away with it. And there's nothing we could do. We couldn't sue Twitter or Facebook because they had this protection through the law. What happened was actually a couple individuals I identified. One was Jim at the Gateway Pundit. We found that in Oregon, a government employee, a politician, was working with Twitter and telling them what to take down. For example, we did a report that something happened, and we had like 1,000 people that gave us information that this is exactly what happened, and I can't remember the issue, but the Secretary of State or some government official told Facebook or Twitter we had information that they worked with those big tech entities and told them to take this down. And so that's where they cross the line. That's where it's not protected through this Section 230, is the government can't be telling big tech what to censor. And so another guy, Dr. Shiva in Massachusetts, also identified this. So there was this, look at this, the government, the Democrats, and big tech are working together. So that's what initiated this court case with the attorney generals in Missouri and Louisiana. The original attorney general of Missouri is this Smith now, who's the senator in D.C. So good for him. And what they did is they brought in the Gateway Pundit as the lead plaintiff. I don't know if you know that. So Gateway Pundit was a big part of this because they're located in St. Louis. So we started doing depositions. Dr. Fauci was one person, but there's a couple others that came in that were really pertinent to this. One was this guy from the Secretary of State's office that said, yeah, we are funding PolitiFact. So the government is not only censoring us, but they're funding outfits like PolitiFact that are claiming to be these impartial fact checkers. Then we found in one of these House hearings recently that the Department of Defense, I'll say that again, the Department of Defense is funding NewsGuard, this entity that was used by Facebook to censor us and impact our advertisers. So the government is not just getting involved, they're funding this. Then we find out through Twitter files that the FBI paid $3 million to Twitter and was working with them daily, even sending people out to the West Coast weekly. And they were working, their whole activity was censoring conservatives like the Gateway Pundit. And so what happened then came the 2020 election. And what we believe, this is what I believe and a couple others, is that, and this was brought up by Anna Paulina Luna in front of the House. She shared that there's this organization of entities that was involved in censoring Americans. And what we've learned is, yes, that's absolutely true. And some of these entities that we also found are the same ones that were involved in the 2020 election steal. So I actually believe the censorship was part of the big plan, which was to impact our election and steal that election. And they could not let us then, after they did it, they could not allow us to share the news. And so they targeted us. And the number one entity that was targeted was the Gateway Pundit. That's because we were one of the few entities that was sharing on the 2020 election. We got up to after the election. So we went from about 500,000 a day back in early 2020 to after the election, we're averaging 5 million hits a day.
Wow.
And so we were just rushing it. And it was because we were sharing the truth.
Yeah.
And we were their number one target. And they have a list and they won't share it, but they even mentioned this one entity that was created just for the election, was working with big tech. It was funded, not sure exactly who all funded it. Stanford University's connected, Washington University's connected, and then one entity that I believe is connected, one is George Soros's entities. And all of this was going on, and the Gateway Pundit was the number one target. They even brag about it after the election. After the inauguration's over, then they can start bragging about what they did. And this entity was called the Election Integrity Partnership, if you look it up.
It sounds like a great thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's actually something that's now, and now what happened is the states of Wisconsin of Missouri and Louisiana then decided to move forward with this, and I believe they're going to be suing the government because the government can't be doing this, and so that's why Biden's first, and then all these other entities within the government, and the Gateway Pundit will be part of that as well. I hope to individually be part of that because I believe a number of my articles at Gateway Pundit were taken down. I was kind of using my expertise in auditing, et cetera, to just drop bombs on this election. It was nasty, which led then to my books. And like I mentioned earlier, I've got a book now. It's The Steal. It's out at Amazon.
We're so excited
I'm going to put that on the
about
screen and put a link down below so people can be able to find that easily.
It's like number one in about 5 categories on Amazon right now. Elections, actually, I was number 1, 2, and 3. My first book and second book are also up there as well. So we're getting the word out, we're getting the truth out, and we're winning because this ruling is really significant. Like our government has to stop censoring us. Big tech still has their protection, but they can't be working with the government, and that's illegal. And so I expect there will be some continuous lawsuits on this. But what the judge did on the 4th of July was basically step in and say, I'm going to be ruling that what the government's doing is criminal, which it is. It's impacting our First Amendment rights. And therefore, you guys need to stop this right now. And so Biden, of course, his administration is now, offered some sort of counterclaim or however it works in the legal terms. And he doesn't like that, nor does because they need this ability to silence us, but it still doesn't work. But this judge apparently took it away if they abide by the law, which is a big if. It's good news for us. It's great news, like that tweet just shared. This is really big stuff that's been coming on for a long time.
Well, just like people don't notice when this is happening, I want to make sure they do notice when it's been corrected because most people aren't in this space like you are. We are, we're talking about this, thinking about it all the time. Most people are kind of going to work, coming home, trying to pay their bills and make sure their kids don't go crazy. And like this isn't the main thing they're thinking about. And so when somebody brings up an issue, it's like, I don't know. I haven't heard about it. It must not be happening.
Right.
And they're getting their news from a social media platform or something, and opinions are squashed. So we're going to put the link to this ruling down below. Real quick, as we wrap up, your book, The Steal, obviously, even before this ruling, you were calling your shots of where this was going, and the significance of it. Moving here from now into 24, what kind of a role do you see this playing? And does it make it an even playing field again on the political front?
Well, imagine if you're sharing the truth and you're not being impeded by the government. Imagine that. Imagine if these entities aren't being funded anymore by the U.S. government. So it could be really significant. And these guys, we're not dealing with. Are they dumb or are they evil? These people are really, really evil, and they're smart and they're clever and they're 10 steps ahead of us. And I cover a lot of that in this book too. Just some of these new systems that are out there that nobody even talks about right now. You got the GOP talking about doing better ballot harvesting, and they're just like, a light year behind where these culprits are moving forward to in the next election. So we got a lot of work to do. We can do it, and we're going to win. And we are winning the information war. 62% of Americans now believe that the 2020 election was stolen. And so that was from Rasmussen. So, yeah, we just got to keep sharing the truth.
I love it.
I love it.
You get if you want the smartest Hoft, go get the Steel. Any day of the week, if you want the second smartest Hoft, go to the Gateway Pundit. But either way, you're getting truth.
That's exactly right. And you can go to joehoft.com, and you can also get the book on Amazon. So thank you so much for your time, Joe. We really appreciate it. Hello, Flyover family. Join me every Wednesday for the Prophetic Report at 11:11 Central. You can find it on Rumble. You can find it on the Flyover app. We have such an incredible time of hearing from all of these different prophetic voices like Robin Bullock, Julie Green, Barry Wunsch, Amanda Grace, and Hank Kuhneman. Every week, it's either 5 or 6 different prophets that are speaking, and what's interesting is God is speaking through them, and all of these voices come together like puzzle pieces. It is so exciting to hear what the Lord is saying. We're hearing from medical. We're hearing from military intelligence. We're hearing from the financial world. We're hearing from mainstream media, but the most important is, what is God saying? He has not fallen off the throne. He's not nervous. He's not chewing his nails. He is in control. He has plans to prosper us and not to harm us. What a great time to be alive, and I'm so excited for you to join me every Wednesday at 11:11.
Do your feet ache and throb in pain with every step you take every day of your life? Well, kiss those days goodbye with slippers from MyPillow.com. How about that flimsy, flat little excuse for a pillow that's nothing but 8 hours of disappointment, causing you pain in your neck every single night? You can wake up with nothing but butterflies and rainbows around your head with a MyPillow pillow. Those hardwood floors hurting your old bones? No more with a MyPillow dog bed. Are your towels worn thin, flimsy, more patchy than Joe Biden's memory? There's nothing better than absorbent towels from MyPillow.com. For all of these products and more, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code FLYOVER for up to 66% off.
You know what time it is. It's time for an economic update with Dr. Kirk Elliott. Yay!
There he is.
I'm here, and so I've gotten so many comments, and I am sort of embarrassed by it. But it's like, dude, you're looking so brown. It's like, I know, and it's
you
not
look great.
Time to be out in the sun. But our good friend Dr. Mark Sherwood, I'm doing this like amazing health regimen with him, and some of the stuff that I'm taking to make all natural and organic to make me healthier with some of his peptides. One of the byproducts is it makes you brown. It's like, I'll take it. I'll take it. Right?
Well, you do get dark in the sun. When I first met you, you've been roofing and you were doing outdoor jobs. It was like 25 years ago, but you had
dark.
a very Steven Seagal kind of look. You had long hair. You were dark out all day, every day.
Well,
that was the move.
That was the move. And so I know this isn't a show about Dr. Mark Sherwood, but I know that you're friends of his. And it's like, anybody who's watching, if you got anything going on with your health, call him, because he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. So
get your body right. That's the most important thing. Got to get your spiritual life right. Got to get your health right. Got to get your money right. And you're like the Dr. Mark Sherwood of finance. That is your anointing, your gifting for helping people.
Yep.
That's right. So you know who's not wise, though, is President Biden. Okay. So I know that's just this lingering statement to just put out there, but what just came out earlier this week is so insanely stupid, but it's why we have the bank problems that we have. It's why we have the economic crisis that we have, because they think that they can play God and do all kinds of crazy things. So what they want to do now is block the sun, right? So
crazy.
So we've heard so much about our carbon footprint, about greenhouse gases, and all this global warming stuff, and I mean it's seriously insane. It's absolutely insane. So the plan is, if they actually go through with it, is to put a bunch of aerosol in space that reflect the clouds on the top, so the sun goes back into space, and it would cool down the Earth within like 3 years. But that would cause for some reason, the water levels to rise. It would damage.
Yep.
I mean, when you start to play God, He created the Earth to act the way that it does, right?
It's brought to you by people that had you walk through a restaurant with your mask on, and then you can sit down and take it off. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Like government policies over the last few years have proved to be like the worst ideas you could come up with. Like, you could be drunk and throw darts at a wall and hit a target that's like, that's a better idea than anything they're coming up with. It is literally so when they're going to give them the power to start messing with the sun,
we need to really be praying about
blasting darkness into the sky. That's like Matrix kind of bad idea stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, really, really bad idea. And I can't tell who that is standing in the background of that picture. It kind of looks like Al Gore because he's wearing a mask, but
he should wear a mask.
If Al Gore is still wearing a mask, because who knows? But anyways, these are the kind of stupid things that they're doing to actually waste so much money to permanently alter the Earth, right? And who knows what the economic ramifications of that are? But some of the economic ramifications of this week that are happening. So July 1st, a big thing happened. This is a story that's probably not going to be covered hardly anywhere, because it's hard to understand what they're actually talking about and doing. But there's all banks lend money to each other, right? And this is called the LIBOR. So the LIBOR is what mortgages are based on, bank-to-bank loans are based on, car payments, interest rates. All interest rates go to LIBOR, which is pegged to the U.S. dollar, right? So now this all changed on July 1st. So it's now called the SOFR. So they got rid of LIBOR, it retired basically, and now we're looking at something that's called the SOFR. So here's where this is really getting squirrely and dangerous, right? So I'm going to read you. A really good friend of mine understands the banking world a ton, right? So I was asking about this. I said, the way that I see this is the LIBOR is pegged to the US dollar, which means all basically rates all over the world are pegged to the US dollar. So that's our last basically hold on to a reserve currency system, right? So we're getting rid of the petrodollar, which is swift and immediate as countries leave the petrodollar system. This is going to have to do with banks and lending and loans. And basically on July 1st, the whole thing, this move to the SOFR, which is a secure overnight financing rate instead of the London interbank offered rate. It's just a way that they measure interest rates. Instead of being pegged to the US dollar, every country is basically going to free float based on the assets that country has to actually transition into asset-backed currencies, becoming an international standard. Basically, they're calling that a risk-free return, right? Because why would you give a country that has nothing, that all they have is debt, a really good rate, even though they're a country, an interest rate, when there's other countries that have a lot of backing? It's the same as individuals, right? If you have a good credit score, you're going to get a lower rate than somebody who doesn't. So now, this is where it starts to become problematic for the United States, not just because we are now losing our reserve currency status even more, but what do we have? Like other countries, like BRICS nations, have manufacturing. They've got entitlement, right? They've got mountains of gold backing their system. You've got the Middle Eastern nations who have tons of oil, right, backing their system. They've got asset-backed economies. We have a lot of exports, but a lot of the service jobs have been exported overseas. We don't really have much oil. I mean, we still do, but the environmentalist movement has shut down drilling by and large part in the Gulf and the Arctic. The refinery capacity is not where it should be because of those kind of standards. You can't frack, you can't do this, you can't do that, right? So we continually handcuffed to being as productive as we could. What asset do we have? Well, I guess we have Hollywood. I would say that's more of a liability than an asset, right? But we don't really have as much. All we have is this debt. But we've been able to amass that because we have this LIBOR thing where all loans are pegged to the US dollar. We've got the world's reserve currency status, right? So built-in demand. Now that this is going away, how are we going to actually get loans when all we have is debt to show for it, right? I mean, our rates are probably going to go up. Every country that doesn't have asset backing could go up. Now, this is all part of a bigger, broader standard that they need to have done for central bank digital currency called ISO 20022. So what that is, that became a global standard on July 1st. So ISO 20022 is needed for things like central bank digital currency. It's needed for cryptocurrencies to become internationally recognized. It's needed for even future things we've talked about, like quantum financial system. It's needed for that because it moves us from a 50-year-old plus paper-based standard called the clearinghouse to a new modern central bank digital currency, a digital system. So this move from LIBOR to this SOFR is part of this ISO 20022. But I know it's a bunch of jumbled up mess, which is why not many people are going to talk about it. But what it means, one more big, gigantic peg taken out of the U.S. reserve currency system to where they just changed the way that banks now lend money to each other back and forth to this standard, getting rid of the U.S. dollar. And now countries and banks are going to be charged based on their risk-free rate, which, can you imagine how anyone in the world thinks that lending to the United States is actually a risk-free right now?
No.
And we don't have much to show for it. And sadly, as I'm looking around, it's like, man, the BRICS nations, which are actually on August 22nd through 25th of this year, having this big confab, this big meeting in Durban, South Africa. And what are they doing? They're bringing in leaders of countries from over 60 nations to talk about their BRICS currency and their BRICS union, right? So they're bringing in all these leaders. Why not have it in one of the big BRICS countries like China or Russia? You know, it's not in Shanghai or Moscow. It's in South Africa, the smallest of the BRICS nations. And it's not even in Johannesburg or Cape Town. It's in Durban, South Africa. I think this is very symbolic because South Africa is the largest gold mining country on the planet. Durban has the largest gold mine on the planet, the Durban Deep Mine. It's very symbolic because I think they're bringing in all these countries and they're saying our BRICS currency is going to be backed by gold. Right now, you've got this new international standard, this ISO 20022. Move away from LIBOR to say now all bank lending is going to be based on the rate that you get based on the assets backing your currency. I think this is all very timely and not shocking that there is a big move for the BRICS nations to absolutely crush the U.S. dollar. And I think everything that we're seeing just over this last weekend is pointing towards that.
Wow. Okay, this is crazy. So what all does that mean for the U.S. economy? What does that mean for us?
Yeah, like for an individual, because that hurts our nation, that hurts companies, it hurts the banks that we deal with here in the States, and then it trickles down to affecting Bob and Mary Smith.
Yeah. So we still have a lot of exports in this country, coming out, leaving this country, which means other countries still have to have U.S. dollar. So that's going to be like this slow grind down death. This LIBOR thing is more of a slow grind down where countries leaving the petrodollar is like fast and immediate, right? So now we've got both of them working in conjunction with each other. But I think as time moves on here, the elimination of LIBOR to an SOFR system and the emergence of the BRICS nations meeting in South Africa, we'll see if I'm right. And I think, but I can't see why they would have such an important meeting in South Africa, and not even one of the South African, crown cities, right? It's in Durban, right? The biggest gold mine in the world. So you look at that, it's like, okay, there's something coming. There's something big coming. But what it's going to mean for all of us is higher lending rates. It's going to be harder to get loans because it's going to be harder for the U.S. to secure international money coming in. I mean, it all boils down to this massive global movement to eliminate the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency.
But you look what's happened, since Biden came in. There was an article that came out this weekend that the number of catch and release migrants come across the border is larger than Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Ooh.
And those people are all getting phones, assistance, housing. That's an expense we didn't have, before. Not to mention every single decision from killing the pipeline, engaging in a war, the Afghan withdrawal, like every decision has been a stab wound to our economy, and without an upside, but it's kind of counterbalanced by this thing. No, there's been no counterbalance. It's just been poor decisions one after the other. People have got to start deciding, I have got to position myself to be, because Biden is the U.S. dollar. Like they're woven together like this. Every decision he makes affects the dollar. If your well-being, your retirement, your future, your kids' college, whatever it is you have is tied to the dollar. Your retirement, your IRAs, you've got to make that transition, because it is literally, he's on a boat with a hatchet, smashing holes in it every single day. And we just cannot be on that boat.
So Dr. Kirk, I mean, I've heard you say it before, but it seems like silver's the answer at this point to help to protect ourselves.
100%. And I think that central banks around the world are thinking that precious metals are the answer, which is why I think they're having this meeting coming up in August, why already they're amassing precious metals, gold, by the thousands or hundreds of tons. Right. So yeah, I mean, we don't have to look to the future. I would never recommend anybody do anything based on an uncertain future outcome, right? Because that would be irrational. What I would do is say, look at what's happening right now. The only way to maximize your future is to maximize every single day. So what's working right now? People are flocking into tangible assets like gold and silver. And so are central banks, right? Not just people, right? Because they're preparing for something coming down the road, which we don't know how bad it's going to be. I just know it's not going to be better. It's going to be worse.
And so this is our way that we can help to protect ourselves during this time. You can go to flyovergold.com. When you do, it's a landing page. Great information. You can check out videos. But when you scroll down to the bottom, there's a place that you can fill out your information. When you do that, it puts you in the queue for someone from Dr. Kirk's team to get a hold of you to set up a free consultation. It doesn't cost any money whatsoever. Get your questions answered. Find out what they can do to help you to get out of the way of what's going on in our world today. You can also call 720-605-3900. Do it today. You won't regret it. Dr. Kirk, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Are you having a hard time sleeping at night, thinking, what am I going to do about my finances?
Times are really changing. They're changing fast. Let me give you a quick example of how. In 1920, if you had a $20 bill and 1 ounce of gold, you could go into any men's clothing store and buy an entire suit. You could buy the jacket, the shirt, the belt, shoes, the whole bit. Today, that $20 bill, what's it going to get you?
Not much.
Maybe the socks, maybe a handkerchief, but the 1 ounce of gold could still buy you the entire suit at any men's store in America. That's the difference. That's what inflation does to your dollar. It's a deflating dollar caused by inflation. Now today, that's happening faster than ever. You need somebody that you trust that can help get you out of a fake currency and into something that's going to keep you safe.
And we know a guy that has 2 PhDs by the name of Dr. Kirk Elliott. We have known him for over 25 years, and he's someone we completely trust.
You need somebody that you can get a hold of, somebody that's going to be there for you to get back out of it, and then maybe back into the stock market, maybe back into something else when things settle down. But right now is not that time. You need somebody that you trust and somebody you can call and make those worries go away.
That's exactly right. So you can go to flyovergold.com, fill out your information for a free consultation, or you can call 720-605-3900. 3900. Do it today.
You'll be glad you did.
The most bizarre passage for me personally in the Bible that I ever read says the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. Giants were on the earth in these days? That is a theological storyline that goes throughout the whole Bible. Modern Western minds and eyes are not understanding the ancient Near Eastern context of the Bible. There's no giants in the Gospels, right? Well, actually, yeah, there are. There were 5 other giants who were also hunting David. We don't fight against flesh and blood, but against heavenly powers, spiritual principalities. The Bible says a lot about giants.
Oh, that looks so good. Cannot wait for that.
It's
Check
hot.
out all of the conspiracy conversations every Saturday at 8 a.m.
Like when you're a kid, you get to have cereal and watch cartoons, but better and a lot more freaky.
That is right.
So we bless you. Bless you to wake up, speak up, and show up more powerfully in your own life. If you liked this show even a little, share it with somebody that you like that'll enjoy it as well. And please give it a like. And we'll see you back here tomorrow and for sure Saturday morning for the conspiracy conversation. We'll see you then. Peace out.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Flyover Conservatives podcast with David and Stacy Whited. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave us a comment below. Lastly, if you enjoyed today's podcast, share with those who came to mind. Be blessed and make it a great day.